Welcome to the Payday with Rayray podcast, hosted by yours truly, Rachel Bell. I'm here to make your life easier as an entrepreneur and teach you everything I've learned about building multiple seven-figure online businesses. And on this podcast, I'll be giving you my best advice, trainings, and mindset shifts so you can grow your business and, most importantly, make every day your payday. Welcome back, my love, to Payday with Rayray. You're in for a good time today because I am addressing one of the most, well, I wouldn't say this is very requested, but I would say that it's highly, highly necessary. Today, we're talking about how to be a good coach, not only just a good coach, but the best coach your client has ever hired in their goddamn life. You know, the type of coach that they will talk about 10 years from now when they're talking about the most pivotal time in their lives and how it was so amazing. This one coach changed my life and they taught me X, Y, Z. And your ripple effect is massive as a result of your exceptional coaching skills. The reason I feel so called to talk about this is because I have invested heavily, not just into my business, sales, marketing, and scaling education in terms of how to grow a business, but I've invested foremost and primarily and initially in my journey in how to be a good coach. I was the classic personal development junkie. I was going to all the events. I was getting all the certifications. I was looking for different ways to enhance my toolbox as a coach so that I could truly facilitate transformation the best I knew how. And in my journey to seek answers for how to facilitate transformation, I gained an incredible amount of context and wisdom in terms of how to properly listen, develop insight, and then convey that insight in a very pristinely packaged and influential way to my clients. And I want to pass that on to the coaches listening to this episode. So before we dive into the wild west of the coaching industry and explaining how this can go very, very sideways and how to make it go forward in a very strong way and create that incredible transformation in every single client that you work with, I want to first and most importantly, tell you who's sponsoring this episode. And if you've listened to an episode before, you know exactly what I'm about to say. The sponsor of this episode is none other than Online Coach University. Give me an O. O. Give me a C. C. Give me a U. U. Very good. So Online Coach Accelerator is one of our signature business mentorship programs inside of OCU, Online Coach University. We offer educational programs for online coaches to start, grow, and scale their coaching businesses. And OCA is by far our most popular business building program. Here's what it is. It's a 90-day accelerator. So we're doing a 90-day sprint to get you crystal clear and implement your niche, so choosing the most profitable niche for what you want to step into. We're going to get you clear on an irresistible offer that the ideal client avatar just simply cannot refuse, how to properly package your expertise, how to price it, how to program it, everything down to the T in every little detail. And then we're going to teach you all about how to facilitate a transformational sales call. So if you dig some of the information in this podcast episode, let me just tell you that we go so much deeper inside of OCA's curriculum to teach you not only how to be a good coach, but also how to facilitate a powerful sales conversation so that you can convert followers into leads, into clients, and sell with confidence and authenticity. So we equip you with templates, with scripts, everything you need in order to just plug and play and get to work. The next thing we equip you with is content creation. You already know I am huge on bootstrapping businesses using the power of social media. So I will show you how to grow a profitable audience and then monetize that audience using the power of content creation and compelling conversations in messages so that you never have to worry if you're saying the right thing again. You just simply plug and play, use our templates, use our marketing calendar that we equip you with. Everything you need, it's done. It's ready for you. Just come and get it. And then finally, we'll dig into some other details like business management and productivity, everything you need to know to be a CEO. And finally, we'll top it off with referrals, testimonials, and how to create a recurring and predictable business in terms of people signing back on and giving you referrals so that you can duplicate your most successful clients. So that is just a sneak peek of what's waiting for you inside of OCA, Online Coach Accelerator. And not only that, I wouldn't just equip you with a course and then send you on your way. I'm not an amateur. I know that you're going to get in your own way. I know that you're going to procrastinate. I know that you're going to make excuses and get distracted and shit. So I'm not going to let that happen. And here's how I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to equip you with world-class accountability and support so that you can ask your questions and get a guaranteed response within 48 hours max. You're going to have weekly Q&A calls with your certified lead online coach accelerator coach to get all the answers you need to build your business and make progress faster than anyone else in your niche. This is going to give you such a competitive edge, especially in today's times, with creating and profiting with your online business. So if you've ever wanted to start or grow your online coaching business and you want the blueprint and the framework on how to get there as quickly as possible, but also in the most sustainable way, Online Coach Accelerator is your golden ticket to freedom, baby. I wouldn't be saying it if it wasn't true. And if you don't believe me, you don't want to take my word for it, no problemo. I don't expect you to. I always want you guys to investigate the results of past clients that have gone through any business mentorship program that you're considering signing up to. It's just good to do your due diligence. So I openly invite you to talk to any of my alumni, get their candid feedback on the experience. If you ever want to get hooked up with one of my alumni, just simply send me a DM and say, yo, I'm thinking of joining, but I would love to talk to someone who's been through the program, and I'll hook you up with someone who can give you the details. In addition to that, if you want to sign up for the waitlist, because we are enrolling new students in June of 2020, go ahead and go to www.onlinecoachaccelerator.com and sign up for the waitlist, because when you sign up for this waitlist, something magical happens. Number one, I send you exclusive, in-depth, long-form trainings. Like, when I'm saying long form, I mean long-ass emails and in-depth trainings, way longer than my captions and way more valuable than my captions on Instagram, to your inbox. So you want to keep an eye out for that. But also you get red carpet, first priority access to our enrollment period whenever we open enrollment and start taking new students for Online Coach Accelerator. Right now, we only open enrollment around 3 times a year. So you don't want to wait. You want to get on that wait list and go to www.onlinecoachaccelerator.com. Get it done, get it right, get it tight, and I'll see you inside. Okay, now let's dive into how to be the world's best coach and facilitate amazing transformation within every single client that you talk to. And the first thing I want to preface this podcast episode with is the fact that the coaching industry is like the Wild West. There's really no regulation. There's no like school or university that you can go to and get a degree in coaching. Like, I'm working on fixing that, by the way. 5-year vision plug right there. But right now, there's no plug and play cookie cutter way to make sure that any coach you hire actually is able and equipped with the tools to help you. And if you are a coach right now, you probably know this better than anyone else. You're looking at other people in your niche and you're kind of judging them and being like, oh, there's no way this person knows more than me about this subject. Or maybe you've had a bad experience with a coach in the past where you've been like, man, I thought they were going to give me XYZ, but I was disappointed with the experience. And the problem with the coaching industry is that sometimes it can get a bad rep if one person misrepresents it. So what my mission is here in this industry is to heal the coaching industry by equipping coaches with better tools and better awareness so that they can facilitate deeper and more profound change and lasting change in their clients, so that you have happy clients raving about you and saying, wow, hiring a coach was the best thing I ever did. If we can get the world to experience coaching in a very profound and impactful way, imagine how many more people on this earth will start taking their personal development seriously and in turn affect their friends and family on an exponential level. That's my mission here. That's the only reason why I would bother to talk about how to be a good coach, because this is something that affects all of us. If we are all coaches listening to this, we need each other to step up and provide better results so that humans on this earth, other people that we're looking to sign on as clients, or even people that we're looking to hire for ourselves as coaches, understand what the standards this industry needs to operate by are. So, in short, here's the danger of not taking your role seriously as a coach. First of all, if you're looking at coaching as a quick way to make money, or you're looking at coaching as like a quick way to just like get cash flow injection and then you're going to dip out and not ever do coaching again, please don't even bother. Like, this is a really, really important career, a really important vocation, and we need people to be involved in this industry who are in it for the right reasons. So the right reasons are as follows. You really value transformation on a holistic level, not just in your field, but also in your entire client's viewpoint of the world. You really want to shift their life, not just what they're hiring you to shift. If that's what you want, then this is going to be goodies for your ears. If you are in this coaching industry because you genuinely want to serve and give, you're going to be good to go. If you're in this industry because you know that you have expertise and experience to share that would actually impact someone's life in a positive way, you're in this industry for the right reasons. But if you are viewing other people as dollar signs, and that's why you're getting involved in the coaching industry because you just want to make a quick buck and then dip out, I wouldn't recommend it because it's a lot more involved than that. And you're quickly going to become disappointed with how difficult it can be to be half-assed in this industry. We really need people who are full-assed in this industry. So if you are a full-assed son of a gun, then you're on my team and I want to help you. Okay, so the danger with not taking your vocation seriously as a coach is that if you get unhappy clients, your reputation takes a dip. You can't afford this as a coach because as a coach, you are representing yourself as a personal brand. So people don't just view you as a company that, let's say that you're ordering something on Amazon, it's like a crystal salt lamp or something like that. All my spiritual people know what I'm talking about. And you order a crystal salt lamp on Amazon and it comes and it's broken. You're not just going to say, this company sucks. And you're not going to tell your friends, this company fucking sucks. You're probably just going to return it, get a new one from the same company or ask for a different version. Or maybe you won't do anything with it and it'll just sit in your closet for years. I don't know. But when you are a coach and you have an unhappy client or you deliver a subpar performance, then your reputation in general does take a hit because you are a personal brand. So don't let this intimidate you into not showing up. Please don't let this intimidate you. This should be more fuel to your fire. If you know that you are in the industry for the right reasons, this should be even more motivation and affirmation that you're on the right track. Because if you're being honest with yourself, if you know a client is unhappy with the results, will you do everything in your power to fix it? If the answer is no, then don't even bother. But if the answer is yes, then don't worry about this. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because sometimes we can get, in a place where we don't want to if we provide neutral experiences, not just negative experiences, but neutral experiences. And what I see in the coaching industry is a fundamental misunderstanding of what coaching even is. I remember the first coach that I hired. He was a beautiful person, a life coach. And yeah, he had all the certifications and things that I was looking to achieve. And at the time I was 18 and it was my first big investment. Maybe I was 19, but it was my first time really hiring a one-on-one coach. And I wasn't sure what to expect. And a lot of people have the same experience that I had, which is I got on the phone and, he asked me, well, how was your week, Rachel? And so I would tell him, oh, my week was good. It was this, or my week was shitty and this is what happened and da, 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 da. And we would just shoot the shit. And there was no real plan behind the call. And he would ask me, okay, what do you want to learn today? What do you want to work on today? And unless I was prepared ahead of time, I would kind of be like, well, I want to get to this place, but I'm not sure how, or I'm not sure what to do to get there. So I really just kind of want to talk about that. And then he would kind of ask me some vague questions about, well, what about this? What about that? And then he would start talking about his personal experience and his stories. And I wouldn't really walk away from the call having any real voice. I wasn't able to process my thoughts because he was talking for most of the time. And I was, listening to his stories and his personal experience, not understanding the frameworks or blueprints that I could directly apply to my life so that I could break through whatever was holding me back. And not only that, but I noticed a distinguishing difference between the conversations I had with this life coach and the conversations I later had with much more experienced and advanced and focused coaches, which is that the first coach that I hired was not in control of the frame of the call. And at the end of the agreement, or near the end of the agreement, when I decided to stop, investing in these coaching sessions, I experienced a level of blame from this coach and saying, well, you didn't come to the call prepared with what you wanted to learn. And although that may have been true, and I do take responsibility for that to this day, I kind of walked away from that experience being like, well, shit, I don't want to do coaching like that. I kind of want to be more laser focused. I want to be more grounded. I want to have more of a deep and transformative conversation with my clients rather than just saying, oh, how was your week? Oh, how's your cat doing? Blah, blah, blah. Instead of just, sharing about my personal experience, I want to hear more about my clients. I want to make sure that I am actually moving my client forward in every single session, no matter how small or how long, because I just walked away from every session feeling like I didn't really have anything tangible to work with. And when I share this experience with other coaches, they echo the same thing. Yes, that's typically what my clients expect from me, is just like, checking in. What do you want to learn today? What do you want to talk about today? And although that can work for some people, and I'm not here to say that that's the wrong way to do it, but I'm here to teach you the more upgraded and evolved version of how to conduct a compelling coaching call that actually gets your client to break through, to experience transformation on a deep level, and to sing your praises from the rooftops when you're done with that session. Because ultimately, you got to do a good job if you want more clients. People talk, and if you can experience a great cohesive and collaborative conversation and relationship with your clients, that's going to pay off tenfold later on. So, typical coaching looks like these bullet points. Number 1, you get on a call and you ask, how was your week? Or what do you want to learn today? Or what do you want to talk about today? And you kind of let the client have control. There's a couple reasons why I don't like this, and I'll share more in a second as to why that is. Number 2, you just shoot the shit and there's no real plan behind the call. It feels like the client is in charge of the transformation, not the coach. And then number 3, if the coach is talking more than 30% of the time, normally there's a problem, or they're just talking about their personal experience, or they're just talking about their own stories, and they're not really providing any maps or frameworks or high-level ways of thinking and zooming out to the bigger perspective for the client so that they can break through. That is a kind of a red flag as well in my book. Number 4, if the coach is not in control of the frame, meaning they are kind of sitting in a passive seat and they're not really taking charge of the conversation and asking directed, focused questions to get to a result, not really effective. And if the coach blames the client for not getting results or not being in charge of the coaching relationship, that's something to look at as well. If your coach is late or consistently unreliable and not promising what they deliver, that's something to look at as well. And I'm just calling out a bunch of common complaints that I experience or that I notice in the coaching industry and why people sometimes don't take this seriously. So again, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast episode, it's up to us as a collective, as a career, and as people who share this career together to up-level this industry and to make sure that every single coaching investment is the best investment someone's ever made. And I'm sharing this podcast, and I hope all my competitors listen to it as well, because I need everyone to step up their game and change the way that we operate here. So all those things are what we typically experience, but I'm not here to help you be typical. I'm not here to help you be average. I'm here to help you be extraordinary. Honey, we're going to make you spectacular. So if you've ever wondered in your coaching sessions, number 1, how to be more in charge of the conversation and feel confident in that role, how to facilitate consistent breakthroughs, or have your client reflect consistent appreciation and admiration for your skill sets and your help, and you want to get an endless stream of referrals and testimonials due to your level of accuracy and performance in your coaching sessions, and you want to feel confident going into any client call because you have a solid bulletproof plan, then I would like to equip you with your coaching skills toolbox. That's right. I'm going to teach you how to have some mad coaching skills. And the next client call that you do, you are going to blow their mind with the amount of accuracy, performance, and precision you have with how you are directing the call, how you're facilitating transformation and breakthrough, and how you're leaving them on a high note. So there are 3 pillars to your coaching skills toolbox that I want to introduce you to, and I'm going to go into examples and resources for every single one of these pillars. So you might want to get your notebook out. And if you don't have your notebook, then go ahead and grab your notebook, and I'll just wait here until you grab your notebook. Or you can pause me because this is a podcast, okay? All right, let's dive into pillar number 1, which is foresight. Pillar number 2 is communication, and pillar number 3 is rituals. So let's go ahead and dive into foresight. Foresight, what does it mean? It means being able to look ahead and set the path for your client. This is one of the biggest and most important skill sets you can have as a coach, is the foresight to be able to predict the path ahead for your clients. And don't worry, if you're a new coach, you will quickly learn this. And this is why I recommend that if you have not yet launched a coaching offer, you've not yet had a lot of experience in guiding people through a blueprint or a program that is conducted through a series of modules that's designed to get people from point A to point B, you go ahead and map that out before you even sign on a client. So you really need to understand, number one, who is the most ideal client that you can work with? Who is going to get the best results with the skill sets that you have and with what you do best? So identify who that person is, and then design a framework for them to go from point A to point B. Where are they at right now? What are they currently struggling with? What do they truly desire? And how can you develop milestones and digestible components so that they can go through that entire transformation in a block of like 4 or 5 core modules. So you can teach them with education, implementation, customer support, all those things, but you really need to get them from point A to point B, and you having that ability to tap into their vision and to ask them about their vision allows you to create that framework with ease. But if you never take time to dig into what they truly want to accomplish and identify whether or not you can help them get there, you're going to have a very hard time setting the path ahead of time. And you're going to show up like one of those typical coaches saying, okay, what do you want to talk about today? Please don't be that type of coach. Instead, be a leader. Remember, this is all about leadership. If you don't understand that coaching is actually leadership in disguise, let me introduce you to that concept, because it's absolutely something you need to know, embody, and cherish as a privilege to lead other people. So, foresight. There are 3 main components to having amazing foresight and helpful foresight as an online coach, and I will lay them out for you now. So get that pen ready to go, my love. The first thing that you want to have foresight with is setting frames and expectations. So a frame is basically what expectation or context you're about to create with a client or co-create with a client. So a frame could look like, hey, this call is going to be about this topic, or this call is going to be our onboarding call. This call is going to cover X, Y, Z. This call is going to be 20 minutes long. It's basically setting the expectations ahead of time so that the client is totally clear on what they can and cannot ask, what they can and cannot do, how much time you have, how much time you don't have, what they can ask, what, is more appropriate to put into text, whatever it is. You want to set those frames and expectations ahead of time. Ideally, right when they sign up, you can, let them know exactly how to use your program, how to use your services as a coach. Because if you don't do this, then you run into a lot of problems later on about the client not being clear about what the boundaries and expectations are, which creates client dissatisfaction faster than anything else. So a classic example of expectation setting is, let's say you buy something online from Amazon and you expect it to arrive in 2 days. So 2 days comes around and you're standing outside your front door waiting for your package. You're like, where's my package? And you stand out there for 12 hours, just like any other normal human. You're just waiting for the UPS truck to arrive, or the FedEx truck, or any truck, really. You don't have a preference. You just want your fucking package, right? So you're just sitting outside, waiting. You wait overnight outside. You're cold. You don't want to get a jacket, though, because what if your package comes in the middle of the night? And then day 3 comes by, and then day 4, and then day 5, and you're finally like, what the hell's going on here? Why am I not getting my package on time? So you go and you open up your Amazon app and you check your orders and you're like, what's going on here? And you find out that your package is back ordered and that it won't arrive a month from today. And you're like, man, I just wasted 3 days of my life waiting outside. I could have had a jacket this whole time. I could have been eating. I could have been sleeping. But because the expectations were not set for when your package was going to arrive when you first ordered it, now you're pissed. And you might even, issue a refund. You might, leave a customer review if you're feeling particularly sassy. You might say 1 star because they weren't upfront about when they were going to ship this out. So fuck you guys. It's a classic example. It's a dramatized reenactment, but it is a classic example of how expectations can kind of bite you in the ass if you're not very, very clear with those things. But if you were on that page and you were about to buy something and they're like, yo, heads up, by the way, this product is freaking great and it's worth waiting for, but you're going to need to wait a month due to demand, then you would be a lot more happy waiting that month to get your product, right? So the same is true with frame and expectations. At the beginning of every coaching call, at the beginning of every coaching agreement or engagement. At the beginning of anything, really, you want to set the frame, set the expectations so that people know what they're about to get, and they can choose to participate in the way that you need them to participate in order for you guys to show up together. So a couple of things to always set the frame and expectations for are time allotted for the conversation or the conversations, the topic, the agenda, and the big picture. So an example of how this would work is, let's say that you and I are on a coaching call and I say, okay, Cheryl, welcome to the coaching call. Today we have around 45 minutes together, so we are going to be covering the most high leverage topics that we can. So those are going to include getting clear on your niche and your I help statement. So I reviewed your homework that you submitted, and we're going to work on those pieces. My agenda here is just to review it with you and show you what I saw that stood out to me that was great, show you some areas for improvement. And then finally, at the end of this call, we are going to rework your I help statement and come up with a perfect I help statement together. And then this will help you in the big picture of your coaching business, because this is how it's going to impact everything else. This is the foundation that we build everything upon. This is going to allow you to have clarity on how to describe what it is you do to people who are interested in your offer. So great. Now my client, Cheryl, you're clear on the time that we have together, the topic that we're talking about, the agenda, and the big picture. And before I even start, I could even say, is there anything else that you would like to get clear or cover on this session? If we have time, then I would love to take your questions at the end of this. So if you have anything that's on the top of your mind, you can ask them right now and I'll write them down. If we don't have time to cover them today, then I will go ahead and write you a message answering all those questions or send you a voice message. And so then, boom, the client's needs are immediately taken care of. They trust that you have direction, they trust that you have foresight, and they trust that you are moving them through a tangible transformation during that session. Whew, it feels so relieving to have someone be in charge of the goddamn transformation. But if you approach the call from a much weaker context, like, what do you want to talk about today, Cheryl? Or what do you think about your I help statement? It's not going to work as concisely and as powerfully as if you approach the conversation like, hey, I'm in charge. I got this under control. This is what we're going to do. This is how much time we have. Here's our agenda and here's the big picture. So that's frame and expectations. The next thing you can do to amplify your foresight is to address the elephants. And what I mean by this is you want to forecast what the elephants in the room will be. Let's say, for example, that you get on a call with a client and this client is particularly chatty and they kind of love the sound of their own voice and they're just kind of looping in a bunch of unhelpful perspectives or thoughts, or they're telling you about how their cat, destroyed their couch and now they have to buy a new couch, but you're watching the time tick by and it's been 6 minutes of talking about the cat. And you're like, okay, I care about your cat experience, but also you paid me to talk about something else. So I want to redirect the conversation back to what's going to get you the most leverage. But how do you politely interrupt someone and reorient the conversation or address different elephants in the room? Like maybe you're about to dive into something very emotionally hard with your client and you want to prepare them without scaring them. What you want to do is address all the elephants in the room up front. And the best way to do this is just to lay it out in the most positive context you can, and then get consent, get permission to do the things that you need to do in order to facilitate the most powerful session possible. So a lot of people will ask me, Rachel, how do you tell someone that they're talking too much? Or how do you tell someone that they are not viewing everything in a positive light? Or how do you tell someone something really honest without offending them? And my answer is always the same: get permission, get consent, get openness. Because if you approach a conversation giving your opinion without first getting consent, it's never going to be received as powerfully as if you say, can I be really honest with you for a second? Or do I have your permission to be really honest even when it doesn't seem nice? And that will open up the floodgates for a really authentic coaching relationship. So addressing the elephants in the room. Let's say, for example, that I am about to dive into the mindset portion of OCA. How I might address the elephants in that context is I might say, hey, listen, you have a series of beliefs and values and thoughts that have gotten you to this point, so congratulations, they've served you. But what we're about to dive into is going to shake up your viewpoint on reality and your identity and everything that you know to be true. So here's what might happen. Number one, you might have an extreme level of resistance to this, but I trust that you can move through this. Again, just reframing it in a positive, encouraging way. Instead of being like, this is going to be the hardest thing you ever do. Don't just leave it at that. Just say, this might be one of the hardest things you've ever done, but let me just tell you, it's the key to getting to the other side of what you want, right? And then you get permission to do whatever you need to do later on in that session. And if you don't know what you need permission for right now at the beginning of a session, don't worry, you're going to find out what those things are very, very quickly in your coaching relationship. And then you can ask permission in the moment whenever you notice you need to adjust your coaching style. So here's what that looks like. Okay, Cheryl, in this coaching session, we're going to be diving into your mindset stuff. Now, with mindset stuff, a lot of times these mindset beliefs stem from early experiences in our lives. Sometimes these are very private experiences, and I just want to check with you first. Is it okay if I ask you some very personal questions in order to uncover some of the beliefs that are running the show right now in your life? Do I have your permission to do that? If she says no, then that says, okay, I can only go so far with this thing. Unless you do that, I totally understand if you're not comfortable with that. Maybe we can move into that later if you're open to that. I really need to do that in order to make the most out of this session. If you want to do this privately, then here's a prompt for you to do that on your own or with someone that you trust. Or if he says, yeah, go for it, then boom, you have all the permission you need to dive in and be the awesome coach that you are. So always get permission before you need to address the elephants in the room and just say, yo, do I have your permission to interrupt you if I notice that we're going off track? I really want to maximize the time that we have together and make sure that you're getting the most out of your investment with us. So I want to make sure that if we are getting off track or talking about something unrelated to the topic at hand, that I have your permission to lovingly interrupt and just redirect the conversation back to what we need to talk about. And so boom, you get their permission. That's awesome. You have your openness and your consent, and the other person is actually kind of relieved that you are going to hold that level of accountability and that level of focus to your session together. Again, just imagine how relieving it would be for someone to be like, yo, I'm here to maximize your investment with me. I want to make sure that you walk away with everything you need. So if I notice that we're off track, do I have your permission to lovingly interrupt and get us back on the horse? Whew, that would feel so much better than someone saying, or just not saying anything and just sitting there and listening to you talk about your cat for 16 minutes, right? Cool. All right. The third component of having foresight in your coaching sessions or in your coaching program is to embrace leadership and direction. So like I mentioned earlier, leadership is the backbone and the heart of the coaching industry. And if you struggle with leadership or you've struggled with the concept of leadership in the past, don't worry. This can always be a skill set that you grow. And nobody starts off as an amazing leader. Nobody is actually a natural born leader. Leadership requires a lot of training, a lot of context, a lot of experience, and a lot of time. You need to be put in some very uncomfortable situations to learn what your true capacities are as a leader. So the best way to go about this and to amplify your skills and enhance your skills as a leader is to ask directed questions. So this is the third component of foresight, asking directed questions. So when it comes to asking directed questions, this kind of goes in partnership with lovingly interrupting or making sure that you are setting the frame and then controlling the frame of the conversation. So if you notice that your client is getting kind of off track with a question, or you notice that they're avoiding a question or they're not really answering it in the way that you need them to answer it, always have like 2 to 3 ways that you can ask the same question. For example, it could be as simple as this. Cheryl, how do you feel about that? And then Cheryl will say, well, I really feel like this person was just kind of a bitch to me, and it didn't really make sense to me because I, didn't feel blah, 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 and I'm just really confused as to why my sales call didn't go well. And I'll say, okay, Cheryl, I asked you how you felt about that, and then I heard more of a situation. But what I really want to know is, what were the sensations in your body, and what were the thoughts in your mind when this actually occurred to you? And then Cheryl says, oh, I get what you're getting at. Well, I felt like kind of that knot in my stomach, and I thought to myself like, oh my gosh, am I going to lose this sale? I really need the money. And I kind of freaked out. And I'll say, great. Then I get the answer that I need. But unless you have ways to ask directed questions towards the result or the realization that you actually want the client to arrive to, you are kind of a victim to wherever the client takes the conversation. And again, your job as a coach is to show up and lead, not to be led. So when it comes to asking directed questions, you can always just decide, okay, where do I want to take this client to next? And always think one step ahead when you're on the call and say, okay, how do you think we're going to arrive to this, Cheryl? Or what do you think is really holding you back from this, Cheryl? Or Cheryl, can you go deeper into that and let me know what you think is really getting in the way of this particular change. And would you like my insight on that? Okay. So boom, you're just asking permission. You're asking directed questions. And that's the best way to navigate a conversation, especially one that's delicate with a client. So that covers foresight. Again, to recap, number 1, you got your frame and your expectations. Number 2, you're addressing the elephants in the room. And number 3, you're asking directed questions. Now, the second pillar of your coaching skills toolbox is communication. And I have a lot to share on communication because it is definitely one of the most important building blocks of a successful coaching career, a marketing career, anything you want to get into, even if it's just a relationship with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife or your dog, you got to communicate effectively. So I want to share with you some of my top skill sets and my little toolboxes and my hacks on how to communicate effectively and make sure that you are showing up in an authoritative and influential way in every single conversation. All right, so get a good grip on that pen because we are about to dive back into a series of pillars under the primary pillar of communication. I'll overview them quickly and then we'll go deep into examples for each one. Number 1, authoritative speaking. Number 2, effective digging, how to get more information out of your clients. Number 3, active listening. Yes. And number 4 is metaphors and proverbs. Yes. And then number 5 is sticky values. Get them to stick in the brain. Where am I at? 7? Yeah, 7 is role fluidity. Actually, that was 6. Okay, so let's dive into the first thing here, which is authoritative speaking. Authoritative speaking sounds, I don't know, a little weird unless I give context. So authoritative speaking, I'll just give you an example of the difference between two of these styles. One is not authoritative and one is extremely authoritative. So let me see if you can, guess the difference here. Hey, Cheryl, welcome to the coaching call. How are you today? Well, that's awesome. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about how to find your I help statement and also how to make sure that every client is compelled by your content. And let's just dive into what you need help with. So what's up? Okay, that's number 1, example A. And here is example B. Hi, Cheryl. How are you doing today? Awesome. Well, today we are going to dive into your I help statement. So we are going to deal with how to help clients see that you are the most compelling option for them. Does that sound good? Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so that was option B. Now, which one do you think is more authoritative? Which one do you feel intrinsically more led by? Which one do you feel intrinsically more safely held by? And obviously, which one is just more straight up authoritative? You can tell by someone's tone alone. Obviously, body language takes a big piece of this as well when it comes to communication. Body language makes up a huge percentage of how people perceive us. But when it comes to your tone and the words that you can use the same words, but your tonality changes everything. So here are the tools that I use to shift from people pleaser, like beta coach, into alpha coach, someone who's much more equipped or feels much more equipped to handle any situation that a client throws at them. The first piece of authoritative speaking is downward inflection. Downward inflection is the difference between speaking like this and upward inflection and finishing every sentence like it's a question. And kind of, not being certain about anything that you're talking about. And downward inflection sounds like this. I'm finishing every sentence on a downward note. I'm completing all my sentences in a complete thought. And I'm always speaking in a downward inflection. Okay? It's more of a complete communication. It's more of a complete expression. And it's much more of a calm expression. It's not saying every sentence like it's a question. It's saying every sentence like it's a statement. Okay? Another thing about authoritative speaking is going slow. It's actually crazy how going slower allows people to listen much more closely to what you say. I just did it. I just did it to you right then and there. And if you're clever, you probably pointed that out and you're like, she's doing it to me right now. And if you didn't quite get that, then now you know. Going slowly is a huge PowerPoint that nobody uses, because when we're on a coaching call, sometimes our people pleaser complex can kick in, and we think that if we speak faster and we give more information in more of a fast way, and we're speaking with upward inflection, we seem like we're explaining things, but it really just comes across frantic. And it really just comes across like ungrounded, uncentered, and not as powerful as if you take your time, you go a little bit slower, and you use a downward inflection. It changes the entire mood of the feedback and the context that you're giving to anything you're talking about, okay? The next thing that will really fuck up your authoritative speaking is the overuse of filler words. So I'm talking to the people who say like and in every other word. Or if you start a sentence with it's just not a good move. So instead of saying or like, just stay silent and go slower and collect your thoughts and frickin' breathe while you're talking, okay? There's enough time for you to breathe and go slowly when you are sharing your thoughts. And you might even find that you can share less feedback and get more coverage in terms of the material and the impactfulness or the impact of what you're sharing if you just slow down and you avoid the filler words like and like. Another big thing about authoritative speaking is if you're ever asked a question where it's outside of your scope or you don't know the answer right away, guess what? That is okay. You're a human, you're not Google. So you don't know everything, and it's really not in your best interest to pretend like you know things that you don't know. But here's what I don't recommend saying. I don't know. Probably don't say that unless it's completely out of your scope of work and you are a, health and fitness coach and someone says, "Hey, how should I file my taxes this year?" You could say, "Hey, that's not my scope of work, and I couldn't really give you the best answer for that. So I'm sorry to say that that's not within my scope of practice and what I normally teach. So I'm going to have to allow you to ask someone else that question. Does that sound good?" They'll say, "Okay, yeah, sure." But saying "I don't know" is always a surefire way to degrade your own authority as a coach. And it doesn't mean that you can't, say that you don't know things. I just did that in that example, but in a more concise and clear way of like, "Hey, that's outside of my scope of work. It's not my expertise, so I can't ethically give you advice on that." Now, if it is within your scope of work and you just need to double check something before you give them a straight answer, or you need to buy yourself some time to make sure that your answer is as concise and powerful as possible, then here's how we go about it. Let's say that I'm in a coaching session with Cheryl. Cheryl is a great client. She has a lot of questions. And one of her questions is, "Hey, Rachel, how long can a camel walk if it hasn't drank water for 4 days? And let's say that camels are my specialty, but I haven't particularly looked into this one weird fact. I'll say, "Cheryl, that is an excellent question. And it's a much more detailed question than I usually get on these calls. So that is, more power to you. After this call, I will send you back a written answer with some studies or some resources supporting that answer so that you can see the most complete answer that I can give you. Does that sound good?" Okay, cool. So that buys yourself some time to get off the call, do your necessary due diligence, make sure your answer is correct, make sure that you're providing accurate information instead of just spitballing something that you really have no business talking about. So if you say "I don't know" on coaching sessions, just replace it with, "Hey, that's either outside of my scope of work. I don't talk about that, so I can't ethically give you advice on that." Or, "That's a great question. Let me get back to you after this call on that, and I will put that down in my notes to get back to you within the next 24 hours. Again, setting the frame and the expectations. When you say that you're going to get back to a client, give them a time frame. Will it be within 2 hours? Will it be within 24 hours? Will it be within 1 week? And just set the expectation. Because if you set the expectation up front, like, "Hey, I'm going to give you that answer, but I have a stacked day full of calls the next 2 days, so give me 3 days to give you that answer. Does that sound good?" Okay, cool. But if you don't give them a time frame on when you're going to give them that answer, 3 days goes by, Cheryl's sitting outside of her couch, she's sitting on her couch, looking at her phone, refreshing her text messages every 2 seconds, waiting for your response, staying up late and drinking wine just to stay awake and coffee, then she doesn't know when your response is coming in and she's going to be dissatisfied. So let's keep Cheryl happy. Let's make sure that she's getting what she deserves, which is an on-time response. And whenever that on-time response is your decision. You just need to check for ecology, check for agreement, and then deliver. Now, the second piece of communication that I want to touch on is effective digging. So effective digging is when you need your client to provide more context or more information or just go a little bit deeper than they are going. And you don't really know how to get them to go deeper. And you feel like you're prying a little bit, but you really do need to pry or dig in order to get a more efficient answer out of them so that you can work with something. So here's 2 ways to go about doing that. I want you to keep these 2 words in mind: what and how. Now, what and how are 2 of the most powerful digging questions you can have. So let's say that I ask Cheryl, hey, have you gotten that I help statement homework piece done? And she said, no, I didn't get it done. Here's what I'm not going to ask Cheryl. I'm not going to ask Cheryl, why didn't you get that done? Because why intrinsically triggers defense. If you ask people, why is that important? Or why didn't you do that? Or why is that getting in the way? It intrinsically triggers defense. Why this is? I mean, we've done studies on it. People have done a lot of research on this. And obviously the answer is not always clear. Everyone's different. But what I find is superior in terms of asking why is asking what and how, because it lowers defenses and allows there to be actual context given toward the answer. So if Cheryl hasn't done her homework and I gave her clear instructions to get it done by a specific date, and my job is to keep her accountable to that, then I'll simply ask her, oh, what got in the way of you doing your homework this week? And she'll give me an answer. And I'll say, well, how can we avoid that in the future? And she'll give me an answer. And I can say, great. Well, what are we going to do moving forward when this happens, Cheryl? Okay, she's going to give me an answer. Great. Okay, how would you like me to play a role in supporting you in getting that done on time? Okay, she'd give me an answer. Great. And then all I have to do is stay in alignment with what she asked of me. But notice how I just said what and how, not why. So effective digging is a great way to utilize the 2 words what and how to get deeper answers from your clients. And this can be applied to almost any industry, any conversation, anything ever. Like I use this all the time in my relationships and my friendships. I say, how are we going to do that? Or what makes it important for this to happen? Or what about that it means a lot to you? Or how does that work out? Or how am I supposed to play a role in that? And it's a great way to do effective digging. And also people love to be asked for solutions. You know, they love coming up with solutions, especially when it's in a collaborative environment. So asking what and how is a much better way to get deep with your clients as opposed to asking why. And I know that this goes against a lot of the advice that maybe you've been given from other coaches of always get their why and know your why. And that's appropriate in some contexts. But when it comes to digging into your client's psyche, it's important to just ask what and how, not why. You don't want to trigger any defensiveness. Okay, the 3rd tip here in communication is active listening. If you've heard of active listening before, then good for you, but I wish the whole world just knew way more about active listening, because then we'd have such a much deeper level and higher level of understanding for one another than making flash judgments and assuming everything. I think one of the worst things you can do as a coach and as a human being is assume. Assuming, as you know, is just making an ass out of you and me. So we don't want to assume. And the best way to bypass assuming and actually get clear, concise understanding on both parties is to actively listen. So what this looks like is Cheryl says, Rachel, I've had a really hard week. I wasn't able to get my I help statement done because my dog threw up on my carpet, and then I had to drive my kids to school, and then the next day I was sick, so I couldn't get that done. And then I got in a fight with my husband, and then I just had a client reach out to me. I had a sales call with her, and it just didn't go well. And I'm just feeling really lost and overwhelmed, and I just I don't know what to do. So I don't have anything to offer this coaching session. I'm sorry, but I just am a mess. And so I'll take a moment, I'll collect myself, I'll breathe, and I'll set the energy for how I want Cheryl to show up. And I'll say, okay, Cheryl, it sounds like, or it seems like, or it looks like, or it feels like, you just want to label it. It sounds like you had a really hectic week and you weren't able to complete your homework on time because a lot of unexpected things came up. And right now you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and you're not sure what you want to get out of this coaching session. Does that sound accurate? Or am I missing anything? Okay. So what I just did in that example is I basically reflected back to Cheryl what I understood about what she just said. And then I asked for confirmation that I understood her correctly. So the key components here with active listening are reflecting what she said and then asking for ecology and confirmation that that's actually what she said. Not only will this allow Cheryl to feel like she's actually seen, heard, and understood, which is what most people are going to be paying you for, regardless of what the packaged offer is, she's also going to feel like I actually understand what's going on and that I'm in her field of awareness, that I'm in her world and I understand it, and that I'm not judging it either. Okay, because I'm not using negative words to label her experience or label her as a person. I'm just saying, yo, this is what happened and this is what I'm hearing. Did I miss anything? Or is there anything else that you want me to know? And then I want to make sure that she understands I completely get it and that I'm hearing her correctly. Because the worst thing in the world is when you tell your coach what's going on and they completely misinterpret what you're asking and they give you a sideways answer and you're like, okay, that's not really what I asked, but here's what I'm saying. You always want to check first and just make sure that you're answering the right question or that you're setting the right context for what's about to happen. Okay. The next piece of communication is metaphors and proverbs. So, what has been completely prolific in human history and the way that we share information, the way that we share lessons, has been stories, metaphors, and proverbs. So if you don't know what a metaphor is, it's basically equating a parallel experience to the concept that you are trying to teach. So a metaphor, for example, or a proverb could be, let's say that Cheryl wants me to just do her I help statement for her and she's feeling overwhelmed. She's like, oh, Rachel, can you just do it for me? I really don't have the capacity to think about this right now. What would you do if you were in my shoes? And I might say, Cheryl, first I'm going to practice active listening. It sounds like you kind of want me to just do it for you because you're feeling overwhelmed right now. And it would be a lot more relieving if I could just take it off your plate and do it myself. Does that sound accurate? Or am I missing anything? And she'll say, yes, that's what I want. And I'll say, okay, are you open to some perspective on that and something that my mentors taught me that I'm really grateful they taught me? So I'm just asking for permission and consent, again, addressing the elephants. And she says, yeah, that's fine. I'm going to say, okay, I heard a proverb long ago and it stuck with me. And this is something that I want to pass on to you because it's going to show up in your client relationships too. If you fish for a man, he can eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he can eat for a lifetime. Okay, so you probably heard that proverb before, that metaphor before. And it's basically equating the concept of teaching a man to fish so that he can provide for himself is much more powerful than just doing it for him. And so I would be, using metaphors and stories and little proverbs to equate what I'm teaching to the client so that it sticks with them. Because guaranteed, if I shared that with Cheryl in that moment, she would be like, oh, that suddenly makes sense. Because if I'm just talking contextually and I'm like, no, Cheryl, I can't do your I help statement for you because you really need to do this because you need the experience, she's not going to hear the bigger picture to that. She's in her experience of feeling overwhelmed and feeling stuck, and she's not going to understand why I can't just do it for her because she just wants to make progress and she's feeling overwhelmed and everything's going wrong. But I need to zoom out and bring her to the bigger picture, and I want to attach her to the higher purpose by providing a metaphor that she can also attach to and that she can align with as her higher purpose. So have metaphors and proverbs and stories stacked the fuck up because you need to be able to whip those out and get yourself out of sticky situations and also move the client forward with a higher purpose. Okay, speaking of sticky, let's talk about the next point, which is sticky values. Sticky values are basically a tool that I use, and I don't know of anyone else who really talks about this, but I want to share it with you because I've noticed it become incredibly potent and apparent in me hiring coaches underneath me. And through the experience of hiring coaches to take on my roles inside of Online Coach Accelerator and equipping them through, years of training and rounds and rounds and rounds of, giving them the one-on-one mentorship that they need in order to move forward and move the students forward just as well, if not more powerfully than I do. I've needed to install some really, really clear intrinsic values into them in order for them to repeat and regurgitate what the core messages are of this program. So a sticky value might look like a phrase that you repeat in every single coaching session, or a phrase that you repeat in every single module, and that you consistently come back to as a general rule of something to remember. It would be like something that you would put on a t-shirt for your company, right? So sticky values could be like, in my company, it looks like a couple ones like this. Do it with love and enthusiasm and you can't go wrong. Right? That's a sticky value. We always say that on coaching calls. As long as you're doing it with love and enthusiasm, you can't go wrong. Okay. Another sticky value might be clarity over cleverness. That's another sticky value that I always share with my students and my team. So whenever they're overthinking something, I'm like, guys, clarity over cleverness. How can we make this clear? So in your own coaching agreements, in your own coaching sessions, you want to make sure that everything that you're sharing with your clients is relating back to a sticky value. Okay, so you want to have sticky values that you can either discover through repetition and just coaching many clients and figuring out like, oh, I always say this to my clients. Or maybe a client will repeat back to you when you ask them, what's your main takeaway from this session? And they'll say, oh, I really loved it when you said that as long as I do it with love and enthusiasm, I can't go wrong. That really stuck with me. Okay, that's a sticky value. If it's stuck with you, it's sticky and we want to keep it. So become aware of your sticky values and make sure that you're reiterating and implementing them all the time, because those are going to pay off big time, and you'll find that your ripple effect is exponential when you focus on your sticky values. Now, you don't want to be repetitive. You just want to integrate those sticky values whenever it's appropriate. So I wouldn't start off the call by saying clarity over cleverness, because that may not be relevant and that may not stick the way that I want it to. But what would be appropriate to, say that in terms of situation is when Cheryl's getting overwhelmed and overthinking her situation. I'll say, hey, Cheryl, what's the number one value of being clear? That's right. It's clarity over cleverness. And I'm reminding her with that sticky value. Okay. And then the last pillar of the communication toolbox is role fluidity. Role fluidity. Being fluid with your role on a call or in a coaching relationship. So in a coaching relationship, you have basically 3 roles to play, depending on your brand, depending on your niche. But I'm just going to overview all of them, and you can find yourself in one of these, and hopefully you don't just stay in one of these all the time, because you do need to have fluidity to flex and to flow into all of them. But there's 3 main roles that you need to play on a coaching call. One is the coach. This is when you're giving feedback and insight and you are, basically coaching them through their situation. It's very familiar to you. You know what to do there. Then there's the friend. The friend is someone who starts the coaching call and they're there for you in hard times and they really level with you and they have the empathy to understand where you're at and the non-judgmental attitude to really allow you to open up to that person. So know when to put the friend hat on and when to put the coach hat on. But here's the deal. If you just stay in the friend zone and the coach zone, you don't really have the potency of something else that you also need to step into as a role, which is the sage. The sage is the all-knowing, trustworthy, wise, you guessed it, sage of advice. This is the personality that you can adopt that is calm, grounded, and unshakable in the face of uncertainty. The type of coach that someone can always channel and say, oh, what would Rachel do? Or what would this coach do in this moment? And then in that time, they are channeling your sage personality. Like, what would this person do in this situation? So knowing when you need to shift from friend into coach and when to shift into coach into sage, that's going to be a huge game changer in your ability to convey messages effectively and powerfully to your clients. Okay, so again, to recap, in the communication pillar, you have number 1, authoritative speaking, number 2, effective digging, number 3, active listening, number 4, metaphors and proverbs, number 5, sticky values, and number 6, role fluidity. Okay, now the final pillar of your coaching skills toolbox is rituals. Rituals, rituals, rituals. Now, again, looking back into human history, how important have rituals been? Just the most important thing ever, pretty much, right? So rituals are a consistent, predictable, reliable, grounding concept that allows someone to relax in knowing that they have rituals. Same thing as a habit, same thing as a routine. It's a human need to have consistency and certainty. So in coaching, a lot of times you're incentivizing your client to go through a massive amount of uncertainty or a massive amount of variety in order to create a transformation. And in that, there can be a lot of instability created. So what you can do inside of your coaching sessions to provide certainty and stability is to create rituals with your clients. So not only inside of calls, but also just inside of your entire coaching agreement, you can create rituals for your clients to rely on, not to be repetitive or boring, but to be flexible and predictable so that they know what's coming up. So the first ritual that I want you guys to take seriously is how you start off your calls or how you start off your coaching agreements. Inside of Online Coach Accelerator, we always start off with an onboarding call where we set the frame and the expectations for how they can use the program, who they ask their questions to, how much time we have for everything, etc. So on your rituals inside of your coaching sessions, it would be a great idea for you to decide and exemplify the energy or the emotional state you want your client to have on those calls. So a creative way to do this is to say, hey, Cheryl, welcome to the call. How are you doing today? And then you connect with her, Okay, great. Let's dive into our pre-call ritual. And in this pre-call ritual, we're going to set an intention for our energy during this session. So what character trait do you really want to embody during this session, Cheryl? And Cheryl will say, I want to embody peace and calm. You'll say, great. You'll write it down in your notes. And then you say, okay, let's embody peace and calm. Let's sit down for just 2 minutes and breathe in together peace and calm. And let's get in that state together. So this could be a really easy ritual that you implement with all of your clients. You just get them to step into an energy or step into an intention, and they know that that's coming at the start of each coaching session. So another example is inside of Online Coach Accelerator during weekly calls, we'll often have our clients do a grounding exercise where they do some breathing, some breath work, and then they channel their energy into the ground and they just get centered before we dive into business questions and things of that nature. So this can be an easy way for you to set up a ritual to provide stability and certainty and predictability to your clients while also providing the spice of life, which is the unpredictableness and the instability. So the key here is to create a predictable but flexible approach to conduct your recurring calls so that they can simultaneously work through the issues and the challenges and the opportunities that they have in front of them. And you're able to measure their progress, check in, and use that progress to leverage continued agreements or upsells, downsells, all that stuff. So another ritual, aside from within the coaching calls, so you could have a way to open up your coaching calls, you could have a way to close out your coaching calls, and then you could also have a way to measure progress and have that be a ritual as well. So maybe every Sunday you want to send your clients a progress tracker where they fill out a spreadsheet or some sort of form to measure different areas of progress in whatever you're coaching them on. So if that's health, then you have them answer some questions about that. If it's mindset, you have them answer some questions about that. If it's business, you have them answer some questions about that as well. But this is a really important piece that you want them to be aware of so that you can continually measure data and progress from your clients, and you can make sure that you're using that as leverage to have re-enrollment conversations. Or you can look back on their progress from when they started to where they are today and say, oh my gosh, Cheryl, look at how much you've improved in your calmness. Over the past 6 weeks, you've gone from a 10 on stress to a 2 on stress. I'm so proud of you. Now, what do you want to do moving forward? Do you want to continue with coaching? You know, this is leverage that allows you not only to exemplify value to your clients, especially if you're working with intangible pieces, but it also allows you to show the client that they're actually moving forward. Because as you know, humans are emotional basket cases, and our entire emotional terrain just changes day to day, hour by hour. And Cheryl might be feeling like a rock star at 10 a.m. and then a complete shit show at 2 p.m. And it had nothing to do with her external circumstances, but everything to do with her mindset. And when we actually track data, we're able to show that, and data doesn't lie. So we want to be able to measure progress and make that part of a ritual inside of your coaching program or your coaching services. So to recap with rituals, you want to decide how you want to open, close, and conduct coaching calls. A great way to do this is to decide and exemplify what energy you want your client to have. And you want to create a predictable but flexible approach to conduct recurring calls and measure progress, check in, and use that as leverage to create continued agreements. So to recap your coaching skills toolbox, you have foresight, you have communication, and you have rituals. With these 3 ingredients completely active and online, you are going to facilitate incredible breakthroughs and transformation with your clients, guaranteed. And if you know any coaches who need this toolbox, please send them this episode, because we need everyone to be on board in this industry to really heal what we're doing here as coaches and get the amateurs out of here so that the true professionals can grow and thrive like you. If you're listening to this podcast, I consider you a true professional because you are actually looking to enhance your skill sets in terms of facilitating transformation. So I'm on your team, you're on my team, and we're all in this together. We're really just walking each other home. So I hope this helps. And I would love for you to post your greatest takeaway or something that was a sticky value for you in this podcast episode, and post it on the gram, tag me, and let me know what you took away from this episode. And if you are looking to take your coaching skills to the next level, I have a very, very special treat for you. We are starting a private Facebook community specifically for online coaches who want to learn how to not only attract more clients using social media, grow their audience full of profitable, engaged community members, but also enhance their coaching skills so that they can help clients on a deeper levels. I want to invite you to join this Facebook group by going to facebook.com/groups/6figure coaching biz, B-I-Z. And inside of this Facebook group, you're going to be able to get access to live streamed hot seats Q&A sessions with me, where we can hash out exactly what you are doing in your coaching sessions and how to enhance your ability to help your clients. And I'll be there to answer any question you have about growing your business, scaling, getting more clients, growing your audience, whatever you need. This is a special invitation for you who's listening to the podcast to join this Facebook group and to get amongst the conversation and to connect with other coaches who are badasses just like you. So again, the call to action or the URL that you can go to is facebook.com/groups/6figure coaching biz, and join the group, answer the questions that are required there. That helps us understand why you're joining the group and what you're looking to get out of it so that we know what type of trainings to drop in there. And I hope to see you inside. So until we talk next payday, guys, get out there, get paid, and I hope to see you inside the Facebook group. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did find it super valuable, you just want to share it with the world, make sure you screenshot, post, and tag me on Instagram so I can stalk your profile and we can connect more. And to get notified on the next episode here on Payday, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so you never miss a beat. Get out there, secure the bag, and I will see you next payday.